When George Kittle went down and didn't come back against the Colts, I'm not going to lie, it felt like the air got sucked out of the room. Even in a blowout, when your most important playmaker outside of the quarterback gets hip-drop tackled and immediately ruled questionable, your mind jumps straight to worst-case scenarios. High ankle sprain, multiple weeks. Playoff implications, all of it. And that's why this update matters so much, because what we've learned since that game completely changes the outlook for this team moving forward. Kittle took that hit in the second half, didn't return, and the 49ers clearly chose to play it safe on that turf with a massive lead. And remember, even with limited snaps in the second half, he still finished with 7 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown. That's how dominant he was before the injury. After the game, Kittle himself said he didn't think it was a high ankle sprain, and now we've gotten confirmation that he was right. Reports indicate this is a mid to low ankle sprain, not the catastrophic scenario everyone feared. That is the best possible news you could ask for in this situation. High ankle sprains can derail seasons. They linger. They rob players of explosiveness. This isn't that. Does that mean Kittle is magically pain-free? No. If he plays, he's going to be uncomfortable. But this is about pain management, not structural damage, and that's a massive difference. Especially when you're talking about a player like George Kittle, who has built his entire career on toughness, availability, and showing up in the biggest moments. Now here's the real question I want you thinking about, and I want you to answer it down in the comments. If Kittle can play but isn't 100%, do you want him out there anyway, yes or no? There's no wrong answer, but it's a real debate. This game matters. Seeding matters. Momentum matters. And Kittle isn't just another tight end. He's the emotional engine of this offense. What makes this update even bigger is timing. The 49ers are already locked into the postseason, but every game from here on out is about positioning. Every snap is about rhythm. And Kittle changes how defenses line up. Even at less than full strength, he forces double teams, opens up the run game, and gives Brock Purdy that security blanket over the middle. That's why the front office invested in him again. That's why he's still viewed as a pillar of this offense. If you felt a sense of relief when this news dropped, hit the like button, because you're not alone. And if you want to stay locked in for every major update like this as the playoff push heats up, make sure you're subscribed and help us get to 1,000 subscribers. We're building something here, and I want you to be part of it. And here's where we're going next, because this conversation doesn't stop with injury updates. To really understand why this matters, you have to zoom out and look at what George Kittle has meant to this offense over the last several games, and why the 49ers simply look different when he's on the field. That's where we're headed next. When you zoom out and really look at what's happened since George Kittle returned and got fully integrated back into this offense, it's impossible to ignore the impact. This isn't just about box score production, even though the numbers are absurd. This is about how the entire offense functions differently when number 85 is on the field. Defensive. Coordinators treat him like a problem that has to be solved before anything else, and that alone changes everything for San Francisco. Over the last stretch of games, Kittle has been on an absolute tear. We're talking about nearly 500 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in a short span. And that's while sharing the field with multiple elite weapons. What makes that even more impressive is how versatile his usage has been. One snap, he's sealing the edge in the run game. The next, he's splitting, safeties down the seam, and then he's bullying a cornerback after the catch. There is no other tight end in football who stresses a defense this many different ways. And this is where Brock Purdy benefits the most. When Kittle is healthy, Purdy plays faster and more confidently. The middle of the field opens up. Play action becomes more dangerous. Linebackers hesitate just long enough for windows to appear. That's not an accident. That's the gravitational pull of an elite tight end who can block, like an extra offensive lineman, and still beat coverage like a top wide receiver. The run game tells the same story. With Kittle on the field, efficiency goes up. Outside zone works better. Cutback lanes appear. Defenders have to choose between respecting his blocking or bracing for a route release. And when a defense guesses wrong, it usually ends with a chunk play. That's why his presence matters, even if he's not catching a pass on a given snap. So here's something I want you to think about, and answer honestly in the comments. Is George Kittle the most important non-quarterback on this entire offense, yes or no? Not the most talented, not the flashiest, but the most important. Because there's a real argument to be made that everything runs through him when this unit is at its best. If you're enjoying this breakdown and want more real, thoughtful coverage like this as the season pushes toward the playoffs, make sure you're subscribed and help us reach that 1,000 subscriber goal. And, coming up next, there's another massive piece of good news that deserves attention, because the left side of this offensive line might be locked in for longer than anyone expected. Now let's talk about something that might have flown under the radar nationally but means everything if you're a 49ers fan. And that's Trent Williams making it very clear that he's not going anywhere. After the win, hearing the chants of one more year, and seeing Trent respond the way he did wasn't just a cool moment, it was a statement. He's not done. Not even close. And for this offense, that's enormous. At 37 years old, Trent Williams is still playing at a level most tackles never reach at any point in their careers. The metrics back it up. One of the highest overall grades in football at his position, elite run blocking, and still more than holding his own in pass protection. That combination is rare, and it's the reason why this offense can do what it does. When you have a left tackle who can dominate in space and erase top edge rushers, it gives the play caller freedom. It gives the quarterback confidence, and it gives the entire unit an identity. Think about how much changes if Trent isn't there. Play action becomes less threatening. The run game loses its backbone. Defenses can attack the edges differently. His presence affects every single snap, even the ones where he never touches the ball. That's the mark of a truly elite offensive lineman, and that's why his comments matter so much beyond just one season. And here's what makes it even more impressive. He's not just hanging on, he's thriving. He's earning Pro Bowl honors. He's setting historical marks for his position. And he's doing it while leading a locker room that feeds off his toughness and professionalism. That kind of leadership doesn't show up on a stat sheet, but you can feel it when this team plays. So let me ask you this. How many more years do you realistically think Trent Williams can play at this level? Drop your number in the comments. 1, 2, more? Because if he's still anchoring that left side, this window stays wide open. If you appreciate having a franchise legend still dominating in the trenches, hit the like button. And if you want to stay locked in for everything surrounding this team, from breaking news to playoff breakdowns, make sure you're subscribed and help us get to that 1,000 subscriber milestone. Up next, though, we have to pivot to a more uncomfortable conversation. It's one that goes beyond football and raises real concerns, and it involves a player the 49ers are counting on in a big way moving forward. This next part of the conversation is a lot tougher, because it's not about X's and O's or stats on a spreadsheet. It's about responsibility, judgment, and whether a player truly understands what's at stake. The Brandon Aiyuk situation has raised real concerns, and it's something the 49ers and the fan base can't just brush aside. The video that surfaced showing Aiyuk speeding at an extremely high rate near the stadium wasn't just reckless. It was dangerous. There's no way around that. The speed limit in that area is nowhere close to what was shown, and now law enforcement is looking into it. That alone makes this a serious issue, regardless of how you feel about Aiyuk as a player. And while he's currently away from the team and not eligible to return this season, this moment still matters for his future and for the organization. Aiyuk did release a statement, apologizing and saying that kind of content won't happen again. And on one hand, you want to believe that. You want to believe it came from a place of reflection and growth, especially when family is mentioned. But it's also fair to say that apologies carry more weight when actions follow. This isn't about piling on. It's about accountability and making sure something like this never happens again. What makes this especially unsettling is how sudden the shift has been. Not long ago, Aiyuk was viewed as a foundational piece of the offense and a rising star. Now there's uncertainty. And when uncertainty creeps in, it affects trust. Not just from the team, but from fans who want to believe in the people they're cheering for on Sundays. So I want to know where you stand on this. Do you believe Aiyuk's apology was genuine? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments, because this is a conversation worth having respectfully. If you value honest coverage that doesn't shy away from difficult topics, make sure you're subscribed and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. And as we wrap things up, there's one final discussion that brings everything full circle. Because despite all the ups and downs, this team is still doing something special under its head coach, even if there's one glaring issue that needs to be fixed. When you step back and look at the full picture, it's hard to argue against how special this season has been under Kyle Shanahan. What this team has accomplished offensively, especially given the adversity they've faced, is genuinely impressive. The consistency, the efficiency, and the way this offense has been humming week after week puts Shanahan firmly in the Coach of the Year conversation. There's no way around that. This offense is playing historic football, scoring at will, not punting for weeks at a time, putting together stretches we've never seen before in the NFL. Brock Purdy is thriving. The system is clicking. The culture is strong. Even after major injuries, this team hasn't flinched. That's coaching. That's preparation. That's belief being instilled from the top down. But here's where the conversation has to be honest, because greatness doesn't mean perfection. As brilliant as Shanahan is offensively, his game management, particularly when it comes to challenges, has been baffling. Time and time again this season, challenges have been thrown that had little chance of being overturned. And while some of those mistakes haven't mattered in blowouts, that margin disappears in the playoffs. One bad challenge can cost a timeout. One lost timeout can cost you a drive. One drive can end a season. That's how thin the margins are in January. And it's fair to ask why this keeps happening. Whether it's someone in his ear or a breakdown in process, something has to change. Accountability matters, especially when the stakes are this high. So let me ask you this. Do you believe Kyle Shanahan should win Coach of the Year despite these issues? Yes or no? And what's the one thing you want to see cleaned up before the playoffs? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you've made it this far, do me a favor and hit the like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want to stay locked in for everything surrounding this team as the postseason approaches, make sure you're subscribed and help us reach that goal of 1,000 subscribers. We're covering every angle, every story, and every moment together.